hospital. I flatlined for over 90 minutes. And during that time, I experienced what medical researchers have coined a near-death experience, where I went to the afterlife and got to experience my life without a body. I experienced a life review. I was given information pertinent to my own life, and an overall understanding of how the world and the cosmos operates.
Cherie Aimee is a return guest on Bump in the Road. Her story is one of unbelievable illness leading to a near-death experience. The combination of these opened the door to a new world view, where spirit and nonlinearity became her road signs to living an authentic life. The conversation is in two parts. The first part is available to everyone, but for subscribers only, in part two, we take a deep dive into our own lives, into seeing life from a spiritual perspective and the deep learning that accompanies that type of quest. You can subscribe on Substack or on the website for just $5 a month. Buy us a cup of coffee and join in a remarkable conversation. Cherie, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, refresh our memories about your story and tell us what you're up to now.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Pat, again for having me back. It's so excited to just be here and chat with your audience again. So again, yeah, my name is Cherie Aimee. I am a near-death survivor. I'm also a cancer survivor, near-death experience survivor, cardiac arrest survivor, and I lived about 5 years on a bionic heart before a heart transplant in 2014. Most know my story from my incredible near-death experience, where I crossed over in the hospital. I flatlined for over 90 minutes. And during that time, I experienced what medical researchers have coined a near-death experience, where I went to the afterlife and got to experience my life without a body. I experienced a life review. I was given information pertinent to my own life, and an overall understanding of how the world and the cosmos operates. That's a lot, right? In and of itself. But that's, the overall gist of my story. Is a very profound near-death experience. It was very long. And I know in the first episode, I went through some of the details of the story, but in summary, it was an experience that took me on, it shifted the entire course of my life. And it took me on what I kind of now refer to as a vision quest, because I came back from my near-death experience. I was on life support for, 4 months, and then another 5 years on a bionic heart before the transplant. And the world as I knew it was no longer. I really felt lost, confused. I was in a lot of pain, and everything I knew about the world had been flipped upside down, literally in an instant, that near fatal day that I flatlined. And so, this journey that I've been on for over a decade now is something similar to what, Native American shamans would call a vision quest. And it was, how do I make sense of number one, this upheaval that my life had just experienced, having my life flipped upside down, being left on life support for years, then having to say goodbye to my innate heart and receive a donor heart, and then to still be left with, years of rehabilitation ahead of me. My career was, pretty much destroyed because of my physical disability. And I had lost several relationships along the way because the health journey was just so long. Um, and so, I was left with the question, now what? Now what do I do with my life? And so this is really the journey of my vision quest. And it was a vision quest back to understanding the truth of who I am and why I'm here on this planet.
How do we come to understand these personal truths?
Well, this is what I love about learning more about what a vision quest is. Sometimes we hear people using plant medicine or having some sort of miraculous spiritual awakening, something that shifts the paradigm of how they view the world. Um, I don't think somebody has to have a near death experience to have such a profound paradigm shift. But I do believe that the mind needs to be shook up. The way that you view your reality has to have something come in that allows you to um, shift your current belief systems. And our belief systems are so strong. We have gained our belief system since the moment we were born, through our parents, through school system, through conditioning, through society. We're fairly locked into how we view the world and what we believe to be good or bad, right or wrong, and what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And it's not until some type of life event comes along. It doesn't have to be a major life event, but something comes along that causes you to actually question your own beliefs. And it takes you on a deep inner journey into what I call your inner world. You can also call it into the soul, right? If that resonates with you, but it's a deep journey of contemplation that isn't always fun or pretty. It can be messy at times, but it's a journey of self-contemplation. It's really the best way I can describe it, where you do come face to face with very confronting questions about how you see the world and how you see yourself, right? How you see others and how you see the world around you. And that can be very disorienting to start questioning and diving deep into some of those core beliefs. But I do believe that that's what is necessary to actually begin to make some of these bigger changes in your life to get back to the truth of who you are.
And I want to read something from your website that I just love because I think it touches on this journey that we're all on. And I think part of the initiating event in a journey like this is usually something fairly extreme outside of our belief system or comfort zone. It was from one of your blogs. You wrote, "The light is in the dark. You have to embrace the dark to get to the light. It can be excruciatingly painful at times, but the deep and sacred and embodied love on the other side of diving into the pain is so beautiful and makes it all worth it."
Yes. Oh, yes, that's very profound.
Well, it goes to my view of things in that I think that I say this all the time, but I think it's so true. You need to see the dark before in order to see the light. Humans seem to need that contrast of
Hmm.
opposing perspectives almost in order to dig down to find out what's real.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our human psyches are very powerful. And I always say, the human psyche has like an army outside of it, like protecting it. Your psyche wants to protect you. Like it is in survival mode and it wants to protect you. And so um, anything that questions what it knows to be true is going to be perceived by the psyche, by the body, as a threat. And that's what makes it so difficult, right? And so that's why we tend to need some type of pain to cause enough of a paradigm shift where we start to um, get into alignment with really the truth of who we are. Like the me that is operating on a daily basis, um, in the world, interacting with others, is really the personality, right? And so that's the conditioned self that has been trained since birth. But to get to the true, what I call the essence, right? The core of who you are underneath the belief systems, underneath the conditioning, underneath what society says um, is true for who you are, how you should act, how you should behave. There is a true essence underneath all of those layers of conditioning. And like I said, there is this army outside of your own psyche that is protecting and preserving these belief systems that allow you to operate in the world and be acceptable, to fit in, right? We don't want to be ostracized. We don't want to be kicked out of the tribe, right?
Yeah.
This is very ancestral in our bones. It's very this type of they're actually called core wounds, and they reside in the DNA inside the marrow of our bones. So we're talking very deep seated um, uh, conditioning that is actually passed down genetically through the bloodline, through the DNA. And so when you're asking somebody to make major uh, shifts in their mindset or their belief structures, this is kind of how deep we're going. We're asking somebody to shift their entire paradigm that is actually stemming from not just from birth, but actually passed down through their lineage, right? So it's encoded in their DNA. And so, like, for example, my near-death experience really shattered my reality. So that was enough of an experience to jolt my reality, to shake up my belief systems, to question my reality and get past this army that is guarding my psyche, that is trying to protect me in order to fit into the world. And so I had this near death experience, and now I'm supposed to operate in the world the way things used to be, but they're not anymore, right? Because my paradigm has been shifted. And so the problem with that is I start going out into the world acting a little bit differently, behaving a little differently, believing things a little bit differently. And now I risk being ostracized by the tribe, right?
Wow. Oh, no, it's so true. I think that you've had cancer, and I think that's actually a key part of the cancer experience for many people is a profound core isolation because people don't know how, they don't want to talk about death. They don't know how to relate to it. They don't know what to do or say. So they just drift away. And particularly over a long period of time of illness or disability, people just get on with their own lives. And part of it is discomfort on their part and with you because they don't know what to say to you or do. And part of it is just necessity. They need to live their own lives. But it's a very isolating experience And yet out of it, I think can come some really good things.
Absolutely. I will say one thing I am at times shocked with. Most people do not realize I have been living a life of isolation for almost 2 decades. And I probably do not present like somebody that has been severely in isolation for almost 2 decades, but that is the reality. Um, it is it is scary. It is lonely. It is depressing. I mean, it will take you down, down, down into the depths of, what some call the underworld, right? This is what the dark night of the soul is all about, when you just feel like you do not fit in anymore. You do not fit in with the world around you. It is a very lonely place, very isolating. And I know what that's like, going on 20 years. So I relate to anybody that is experiencing that type of loneliness. We're not talking, a couple of months, because you had surgery and you have to heal. We're talking years. There's people that have felt isolated for years, you know. Um, like I said, for me, it was decades. There were certain things that I did to prevent myself from losing myself, from getting lost. You can go down a dark hole and not find the light, right? But the beauty of going into this underworld is that, oh, oh, sorry about that. The beauty is that you can find the light. The light. I always say that the light is actually found within. It is actually found in that stillness, in that darkness. Um, but sometimes we can get lost, right? And that's why it is so important to know that we have to know a couple of things. Number one, you are not alone. And number two, this is actually a part of the human journey. This is a very, very necessary step of the human journey, because it is what allows the psyche, again, time to detangle from the structure of the external world, the belief systems and the conditionings. And it allows you to, what psychologists call individuate, right? And that is a necessary process to find that true essence that I was talking about earlier, that is your true soul. It is your true self, the authentic self that is underneath all of these societal conditionings, is your core self. And that is the seat of your true power. So as difficult as isolation and loneliness and depression is, it is so important to know that that phase is necessary in actually gaining your true power as a human with a creative genius that is unique to only you. That is where you find your true superpower. It is in that darkness, in that isolation. And what happens is, when you're in that isolation long enough, you will start to locate tools along your journey. I always call them treasures, like treasures along like this underworld. Um, it's kind of like the travels of the underworld. And you pick up tools along the way that start to remind you of the truth of who you are. And they give you a sense of inner power. And over time, you collect more and more, and you meet guides along your way. Sometimes they're in the spiritual realm, sometimes they're human guides along the way. I have met so many myself during those times. where I was isolated. And that's what helped shine the light in the dark along that path and helped me to start regaining strength, but a new type of strength, a more authentic strength that is aligned with the truth of who I am. That is much more powerful than whatever kind of confidence you have going out in the world trying to fit in. We can fit in all we want. We can do A, B, C, and D. We can do all the right things that I will tell you in my experience that is still not as powerful um, in terms of creating miracles, moving mountains, achieving things that you never thought could be possible. That comes from accessing that soul power, that essence, your true essence. And that has to take place during those moments of stillness. And then the third phase of this kind of descent into the underworld is coming back out, you know, into the topside world, but now with your true gifts and the confidence to stand in your sovereignty, to stand true to what is true for you, not because the world said it, but because it's true for you. That is how you develop deep sacred roots connected to the earth, connected from your feet down into the earth and from the crown of your head up into the spiritual realm. That's how you access your true power. And then you get to come out into the world and express yourself in a way that is much more aligned with who you are.
And now you are a guide for others, aren't you?
I try to be, there's so many days where I'm like, what am I doing guiding others? Because I will tell you, I'm still on the journey too. It doesn't end. And I think that's why so many of us miss the opportunity to tap into our creative genius. We miss that because during these moments where we're depressed and we feel lonely, we feel lost, we think that means something is wrong with us. And why not? Because the world has actually told us something's wrong with you when you're depressed, right? We want to fix it with a quick pill or whatever, right? But the truth is, there is so much medicine there. There's so much sacred wisdom there. And this is the soul's journey. This is the human journey. This is the real human journey that I wish was on all the commercials on television. And you know what I mean?
Good luck with that.
Yeah, right? Telling you exactly, yes, you are on the right path. Is your business falling apart? You are still on the right path. That is a massive paradigm shift right there.
It's huge. When you choose through life experience to stand outside the tribe and follow a very nonlinear, intuitive path that goes against everything society says you should be. It's incredibly rewarding, but it is lonely actually. And I don't think I experience loneliness much, but I experience a sense of standing apart.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I still feel that. I still feel that. I will be honest with you. I don't know if that feeling goes away. Um, but you gain more strength in being different, in not fitting in. It becomes okay as you gather more tools and you grow that pillar, that sacred pillar, and sense of belonging. Like I said, if you were to just picture, let's just say you're standing out in the middle of the forest. And you close your eyes and you just picture a stream of energy running down through your legs, through your feet, into the core of the earth. And then picturing the same pillar running through you, but extending from the crown of your head up into the sky. If we could remember that vertical right there, that is our true sense of belonging. Nothing can break that pillar. Like nothing anybody says from the outside world, you're not fitting in, nothing can shift that pillar of, that is your pillar of truth. That is your sense of belonging. That is your right to be here, breathing in this physical body on the planet. And that is a fact. That is a fact. So if you take a look at most of us, at least here in the West, we were not raised with that metaphor.
Oh, not at all.
Right. So no matter how much healing you do, if you stand in your strength, if you stand in the truth of who you are, and you know you belong, you know you are worthy, you know your value, automatically that is in itself a rebellious act to the way of the world. So there has to be a form of reconciliation that I can feel different and still know I belong. I can stand out and feel separated and still know I am one with the whole. Right? Yeah.
I know you're doing a lot of work with cancer patients.
Mhm.
What are some of the issues that come up along this line with people potentially facing a terminal diagnosis?
Yeah. I mean,
Is there regret? Do they look back at their lives, or is it kind of a new awakening where they're seeing things more clearly for the first time? All the above?
I mean, I can only really truly share from my personal experience in that. I don't want to speak for everyone facing that kind of, um, situation. I will tell you from my perspective that, what happened with me, I not only did we not know if I would survive, but we didn't even know how long I would survive. And then even once I did survive, it still is like a day to day. Oh, I'm still here. So like,
I'm laughing with you, not at you.
yeah, no, totally. So I mean, there were support groups that I went to that were, um, for terminal illness, because I mean, I was being kept alive by a machine for 5 years before the transplant, and something could have happened. I had friends that passed away on that machine, never made it to transplant. So I know what it's like to live not knowing if you're going to wake up the next day. Like I do understand that. But what it takes to get through that is a very similar process. It's not like it's a different process. You still, your body wants to return to a state of harmony and balance. It is always, whether you have a terminal illness or not, it is always striving to return to a state of harmony. And that harmony doesn't always necessarily mean the cancer went away. Okay, like that is not how I see healing. Healing to me, the definition of healing to me is wholeness. It is a return to wholeness, a remembrance of who you are at your core. You are so much more than your body, right? Again, we were not taught this. So the process when you have a terminal illness is very similar. Your mind, your psyche, and this happened to me, will automatically start going through its own awakening process to find peace and resolution with what is actually happening. Okay, you may not understand that's what's happening to you at the time, but it will start to go through different phases of grief. And that grieving process is a process of reclaiming lost parts of the soul. So, regret is kind of, regret is like, it's a feeling that you just get at the when you're kind of in a shock stage, like a shock stage of trauma. You start regretting your life. Oh my God, I should have done this. I should have done that. That's like the beginning stages. That's the beginning stages of this awakening, this return to balance, this return to wholeness. So, with terminal illness, it's the same. You know, you're going to allow yourself that space to feel the emotions coming up, to feel the anger, to feel the sadness, to feel the regret, and also witness the alchemization of that pain that over time starts to turn into your own healing medicine. This is a process that is natural for the human body when it is given the appropriate space and safety to feel, right? So there's nothing you actually have to do. So when somebody is facing a terminal illness, it's not necessarily like you need to bend over backwards doing all these things, obviously, unless it's necessary for their comfort and the medical care. It's more about how can you create a space of safety, you know, for that loved one. How can you create a space of compassion, a space of pure listening, where, you know, your loved one can express what's on their heart without you trying to fix it, right? And for anybody that is experiencing a terminal illness, how can you ask for that space, or ask for a listening ear, or ask that certain needs be met so that you can give yourself the space and the time to feel the fear, to feel the the terror, the isolation and the loneliness and the regret and the anger. These emotions can be so painful. And so we have been taught that they are bad, that we should suppress them, and that we should run away. But I'm here as proof that those emotions are actually healing. They are healing medicine for the soul. And they are the body's way of restoring itself back to balance, back to peace. And like I said earlier, reconciling your life from the past to the present to the future, what's to come. That's an organic process that the body does know how to do. And for anybody out there going through this, I stress anger is medicine for the soul. Grief is medicine. You know, these are critical emotions that are necessary to feel when you are experiencing any kind of life transition or diagnosis, these are critical parts of the journey of healing, which, again, like I said, is a path to wholeness, reclaiming the lost parts of yourself.
And to what extent is your belief system part of your core being? I mean, you've been through an NDE. You know that there is something greater than where we are here. You've experienced it, it's real.
Mhm.
I think that type of knowledge has to bring enormous peace, and I would say even curiosity.
Mm. Yes, it definitely brings curiosity for sure. But it does bring peace. When I came back from my near death experience, I've said it in a ton of interviews that I don't fear death anymore. And that was something I was afraid of my entire life. So it's not death that I fear. And I think for most of us, if we really think about it, it's not so much death that we fear, it's the process of dying, or the pain, or the regret, right? Which is why it's so important to, discuss kind of what I just shared. Like, what does that process of unpacking regret, and some of these emotions look and feel like? Because uh, there's this quote that says, like, whatever you think is a problem is actually not the problem. So,
No,
like, the
no.
people that say that they're afraid of death, that's what you think it is, but it's actually something much deeper than that.
You know what I think part of it is? I think part of the fear of death, not all of it, but part of it certainly goes to your belief system. But
Yeah.
I think part of it is a fear that you haven't lived.
Exactly. And that's the regret. That's where
Yeah.
the regret comes from. Like, I did not live my life to the fullest. And that was, I screamed that from the rooftops when I came back from my near death experience. I said, your life is here to be you to the fullest. And so I'm always talking about living from the space of the heart. Living from the heart. We were conditioned to believe that living from the heart was irresponsible, right?
That's true. Yep. You're
Yeah,
supposed to live a linear life. You do this, this, and this. And when you have the house, the car, and the 401k, life is good.
yeah. And then you can live by the heart.
Yeah,
When
but by then you have so many layers of muck, as I call it, attached to you. You don't know how to do that anymore. And you have to strip away all the muck to get back down to who you are, and which takes years, of course, and totally disrupts everything about your life.
exactly. I mean, you just summed up my life right now. I mean, that is the journey. That's the journey that I uncovered, which is why I share this message. I mean, if I were to really just sum up, in a brief couple of sentences, the biggest shock for me that I had to reconcile was, oh my gosh, I'm doing all of this healing work now to get back to the exact person I knew who I was when I was little.
Oh, that's so true. It is so
Like,
true.
are you kidding me? Like, I knew this at one point. And
I would say it's also I always speak for myself that it's a journey
yeah,
back into the right side of your brain, into that intuitive side
yeah,
where you just feel and you know things. And if you act on it, it takes, when you start acting on intuition, which is a form of knowing in and of itself,
yeah.
you start having some pretty interesting journeys.
Oh my God. Fascinating journey.
Yeah.
Fascinating journey. I call them miracles. The miracles that show up, I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. It's just the way, first of all, the way my life moves now since my near death experience, that is not a linear path. I could not map out the going from life support and bedridden, crying on the side of my bed in level 10 pain, to taking that level 10 pain and going out and traveling the world speaking still with that level 10 pain, like meeting so many people, getting on media, speaking on stages, not even related to the near death experience, supply chain logistics, technology. I mean, you could not map that out. That is not if I wanted to do a logical path, and I will say, I am not back here to show that operating your power looks like a linear path. That is absolutely not my soul's mission. My soul's mission is to emanate boundless adventure. And that is going to take curiosity, bravery, um, and operating in my highest joy. That is not a linear path at all. So, a lot of people, okay, this is a perfect example. A lot of people will see my story. They'll say she's a near death survivor. Everybody wants to hear about a near death survivor story. So she needs to write the book, then she needs to be doing a TEDx talk, and then she needs to have her podcast, and then she needs to, right? And like people have come to me with this whole linear layout. And, you know, that has been my number one battle since I've been back. I'm like, no, I actually don't operate based on a linear blueprint. Whatever you have seen me do since my near death experience has been dropped in my lap, literally, because I just operate from my heart every single day.